Welcome to the fastest daf in town. Today on Masechtas Yevamot daf Mem Hey. We are going to begin on the bottom of Mem Daled with base 3 lines on the bottom. Omer Rabba Bar Bar Chana Rav Yochanan. So we were learning in yesterday's daf. There's actually a three-way machlokas regarding when a person is going to have a child, which will be a mamzer. According to Rabbi Akiva, is the most strict opinion. It says even by Chavi Lavin. And then we had the opinion of the Chachamim that's only by Chavi Krisos. And then Rabbi Yeshua says that even by Chavi Krisos, there's no din mamzer, with the exception of if it would be Misas Beistin. However, not by Misas, not Koris B'dei Shemayim. So in this situation, Rabbi Yeshua, as we concluded, did agree that even though it's true that when it comes to there's no din of mamzer b'chavi krisos, it doesn't mean that this person can marry whoever he wants. He just is allowed to marry a Yisrael, but he's still considered, this child's still a pogum, and therefore we went out from an almana to a kohen gadol, that her child will be a pogum, and so too will this one. So again, all these three opinions, they all agree. But if, let's say, focusing on either an Eved Kanani, we're talking about a non-Jewish man, Habal Bas Yisrael, and he has relations with a Jewish woman, Havlad Mamzer. So, of course, the other way around, the child's not even Jewish. But if the woman is a Jew, and the man is not Jewish, so we say the child is a Mamzer, which means, according to this opinion, that child is not able to marry into Kahal Hashem. So, Man HaKomo, who is that? Shimon HaTimoni. Even though he felt that not as strict as Rabbi Akiva, and he holds that you're not going to be a mamzer through a chavi lavin, Hanimil, he says, the Gemara in Mem Hamad Aleph, mechavi lavin the tasibu kedushin. For example, Max Gerushaso, so at least the kedushin is taivus if they would get married. When it comes to a non-Jew who has relations with a Jewish woman, Kivandol Tasbu Kedushin, if they would want to get married, they can't get married. So therefore, Kechavi Krisis dummy. He says that actually falls under the category like Chavi Krisis. Even if, let's say, it's not even a situation of Chavi Krisis, but because they are not able to get married, just like Chavi Krisis can't get married, so too when it comes to, again, an Ovikachavim to a Yisrael, to a Jewish woman, it's k'ilu, like it's chavi krisis, in the fact that kedushin is not typhus, and therefore the child will be a mamzer. Says Rashi, we know this, that the eved ba'av kachavim lav b'nei kedushin ninhu. Dechsiv shavulchem poim achamor. He said, stay here by the donkeys. So am hadaim l'achamor. So it's comparable to a donkey. Not we're calling them donkeys, but we're saying that just like obviously a person cannot marry an animal, so too a person is, the kedushin is not typhus by marrying a non-Jew. Meisvei for the Gemara, so according to one opinion, as we just established, the child will be a mamzer. Then it says, Rav Shimon ben Yehuda Eimer ein mamzer, elo mimishi isur erva v'anish kares. Only if it's mamish and einish, a punishment of kares. And again, this situation of a non-Jew marrying a bas Yisrael, not marrying, but having tashrish with a bas Yisrael and having a child, that is not a situation of chivi krisus. So it is a machlokas. How can you say kol moedim? El Omer Rav Yosef man hakol moedim Rabbi. When it doesn't mean everyone in the world, but it means that Rabbi agrees to this opinion. Afagav the Rabbi Omer ein hadavarim halol amurim el de Rabbi Akiva sha'isa chalutza ke'erva, that he's so strict that he makes a chalutzasai. Again, a person who does chalitza to this woman, if he would afterwards marry her, so that's ke'erva. Says Rashi, Beperik Rabbi Gamliel in bia after chalitza. There's no din bia after chalitza. Di'im cholotz lazu. If you did chalitza with one woman, uboil as zu, and then you had bia with the other co-wife, in a srichamenu get. He's told you don't even need a get in that situation. V'leis lo svirle. However, when it comes to this, he will agree. Now, the chi also Rav Dimi, when Rav Dimi came, Rav Yitzchak bar Rav Dimi Mishim Rabbeinu Abichav Abel Bas Yisrael Havlad Mamzer. Again, he's of the opinion that the child is a mamzer. Rabbi Acha Sar Habira Rav Tanchum Bered Rav Chia Ish Kvar Akoi Parakanu Shivu Yasa. So they did a very notable thing. They redeemed a woman who was in captivity, Diosimi Armoin, with Tveria, and she was brought from Armon to Tveria. Havi Chada di Abram. There was this like bridge. Mi Ovikachavim. The also committed Rav Ami Armalahu Rav Yochanan Rav Elazar Rav Chanin the Aimri Ovikachavim the Abed Abal Bas Yisrael Havulad Mamzer. So according to all these different opinions, they said that in fact the din is the vlad is a mamzer. Rav Yosef Ravusa Lemechshav Gavri. He said, like, why do you include all these great rabbis that say that the child is a mamzer? Like, what is that coming to add? Rabbi Shmuel beBavel, Rabbi Yeshua ben Levi bar Kapara beEretz Yisrael, Yermala Chalufi bar Kapara the Aili Zikni Darom. That was actually the Zikni Darom that said the following: the Amri Havlad Kosher. So you can give me a bunch of names that hold Havlad Pasul, but for the same, or Mamzer, we can find the same thing. A bunch of great scholars and rabbis that say the opposite. El Rabbi Yosef Rebbe, who said in the name of Rabbeinu, Amru, he said as follows: Havlad Mamzer. Rabbi Yeshua ben Levi Amr Havlan Mekulkel. He says that the child is considered to be Mekulkel, like messed up. So Laman, Kahal. What does it mean that the child is Mekulkel? It means they can't even enter into the Kahal. However, Rabbi Yeshua Havlad Kosher. He already says that the child is kosher. El Kahuna. It means that he cannot marry she cannot marry into the Kahuna, but she can marry into Klal Yisrael. The Kul Amoroi, the Machshrei, even all those opinions that said that it's Machsher, Moedish Vlad Pogum Kahuna, right? Even though it's true that the child may be kosher, right? So this woman who was the product cannot marry a Kohen. Everyone agrees to that. Even if you want to tell me, yes, she's Havlad kosher, but it doesn't mean kosher. It means it doesn't mean that the child is a mamzer. But nonetheless, it's pogum. How do we see this? Like we saw in yesterday's daf. Malman kohen gadol sheni surish shavabakoil. An almana, she's only not allowed to marry kohen gadol. She can marry any other kohen. Nonetheless, pogum. If she has relations with a kohen gadol, their child will be pogum. Namely, that child will not be able to marry into kahuna. So this woman who has relations with an akum, she is surah shavabakoil enudin shibana pogum. So again, it's l'charaya that even if you hold kosher, at the very least, the child's going to be a pogum, won't be able to marry a kohen. Now, in second, kohen gadol shekain he atzamas chalelas. When it comes to almana to a kohen gadol, she also becomes a chalola. Hachinami kivan shenivla pasla. It's the same thing. If she has relations with a man who is an Ovid Kachavim, she also becomes apostle. If you have a non-Jewish man who has relations with a Kohenes, she pasluha. It'll pass her to Kahuna, or possibly eat Truma, etc. The only time this din of eating truma is if it's someone who has the dinim of widow being could shaykh to an almana or to a grusha giving a get. There's no din almanos, there's no gershon, there's no din kedushin. So therefore, again, we're going to learn out from here that the din is that this child, even if you want to say is not a mamzer, will still be not allowed to marry into the kahuna. Adarav Dimi Samach Adaravin. Maybe it should be Samach Adaravin Sheet. The Chias Ravin, Rabbi Nasan, Rabbi Yehuda Hanasi, Murimba Hatera. That he actually said Rabbeinu was Mater. Umad Rabbi Yehuda Hanasi Rabbi. So V'af Rav Moiraba Hatera. Rav also came up with a heter. Dahudi also made the Rav. There's a person that came up to Rav. What's the din? Armelo havlad kosher. The truth is, yeah, the child's kosher. So that's great. I'm so happy. Havli bartech. Let me marry your daughter, right? Because I happen to be the product of this relationship. So Yavinalach. So he did not give his daughter to her, to this man. So Omer Shimi Barchil Rav Amri Inshi, people say Gamla B'Modai. So you have this camel in this location, a Kabah, on a small measurement of space, Rakda, it dances. Hakava V'Gamala V'Hamadai V'Lo Rakda. You have the measurement, you have the camel, and you have Madai, but you don't see the dancing, which is basically saying that, understand, you said that this person is kosher to marry into the Kal Hashem, so then why are you now saying that he can't marry your daughter? Or Malay said, Nahavi ki Yeshua ben Nun. Even if this guy would be as great as Yeshua ben Nun, Yavinale Barati. I would not give my daughter over to him. Or Malay, Havi ki Yeshua ben Nun, Marlo Yoivle. If, let's say, this man was as great as Yeshua ben Nun, so if you don't give your daughter over, Achrini Yoivle, then other people say, okay, I don't know why he didn't want to have his daughter marry this great guy, I'll do it. But hi, this guy here, Marlo Yoivle, if you don't give your daughter over to him, Achrini Yoivle, then no one else is going to want to do it either. You're going to basically cause him not to get married. So lo havi ka'azul mikamei. So he basically kept saying to marry your daughter. He kept saying this over and over. Says Rashi, Oso ben Ovid Kachavim, this man who was the child of an Ovid Kachavim, the Ka'armele Havli Bartech, he kept saying, give me your daughter. So Yoevle Einai, so he cast his eyes upon this man, Ushachiv, and he died. Yaf Rav Masna Moirabo Hatera, Yaf Rabbi Yehuda Moirabo Hatera. Even though, again, all these people gave a heter, the Chiyasal came to Rabbi Yehuda Amalei Zil Itmar. He said, go and hide your identity. O Natziv Bas Minoch, or marry a daughter from you. The Chiyasal came to Rabbi Amalei O Goli, O Natziv Bas Minoch. Again, either go and, Rashi says, say Lagos, go and exile yourself. Says Rashi, B'makam shlo yekircho, or no one recognize you, and they'll be able to give you a Bas Yisrael Kshera, or marry a daughter from you. So Shachle b'nei be michse lo rabba, mi shechetzi avevet v'chetzi ben chayrin. If you have a situation where you have a slave who is partially owned and partially not owned, which we say, what is that case? Let's say there was shutvis, there was two partners, and one of them freed him, and the other one didn't. So the Gemara in Chagiga already discusses at the beginning that we really force the other person to have this person completely freed, because in the status of limbo, he cannot take a free woman, and he cannot take a slave as a wife. So, and he was boil al Bas Yisrael. Mahu, so the question is, what is the din in this situation? What is the status? Hashta Eved Kulo Amri Kosher. We said that if the person is completely a slave, we say that the child will be a kosher. Again, we said, like an Eved Kanani, who's Baal Bas Yisrael, the child's kosher, so Chetz Meboy. So if he's half a Yid, that should certainly be okay. So Rabbi Yosef, Mar Deshmaisa, says Rashi, the Omer, but no kosher, the moira of the statement that says that the product of an eved, a complete eved, to a Bas Yisrael, that the child will be a kosher, as we continue to Memham and Beis, Manhu, who was that person that made that statement? Rabbi Yehuda. Rabbi Yehuda, ben chayrin. When it comes to the situation of half and half, he says, Abal Bas Yisrael, Oso Vlad, Ein Lo Takana. That child, there is no takana, says Rashi. B'Bas Yisrael Kolemer Mamzerhu. The child is in fact a mamzer, which is a shtickle difficult to understand, or very difficult. If he in fact say that someone was avid completely, and he's boil with a Bas Yisrael that the child is a kosher, so how could you say Misha Chetzev Eved Chetzev Ben Chayrin? Why would we say in Lo Takana the child's a mamzer? So Kiyid Mod Rabbi Yehuda could go in to Kaddish Bas Yisrael. We're talking about that which we said there's no takana by this Eved, who's half and half, is he was actually Mekadesh Abbas Yisrael. Says Rashi, Misha Chetziv Eved v'Chetziv ben Choyrin, and when he was Mekadesh as Bas Yisrael, he actually did Kedushin. V'yachakach Boel, and then he had Tashmish thereafter he gave her Kedushin. Says Rashi, the Kivon, the Kidsha, since he did Kedushin, having Mikadeshus L'tzad Cherus. There is some element of Kedushin that was Chal because he's half free. Of a lo L'tzad Abdus, but not because of the side that he's a slave. And Nimsa Sad Eved Shabo, the side that he's still a slave, Mishtamish, Be'efsher Lafika Chavlad Mamzer. So Bifnei Atzmo. Okay. Let's see, it doesn't have it. I'm sorry, Mishamesh is Be'eshes Ish. Okay. That was the difficult Rashi Tevis over there. Your Mishtamish Be'eshes Ish Lafika Chavlad Mamzer. The whole Hani the Machsheri Be'Penuya. Anyone who's Machsher Penuya Machsheri or Be'eshes Ish, if she's married, Afil B'Yisrael Havlad Mamzer. The Koshkin Oivikachavim Ve'Eved Avlahecha Da Boel Below Kedushin Kosher. So it's very interesting. Without Kedushin, the child's kosher. But since you had this guy's almost like two different people. The fact that he had Kedushin, so on some level she's married, but she had Tashmish with an Eved, so therefore it's like he committed adultery by himself, which is a very fascinating concept because he's like this dual personality. And that's the reason why we would say in this situation the din is that the child in Otakana. Masha'in Kain, normally you're right, the vlad is a kosher if the person's a total slave. The one who says the child's a mamzer, even if she's a penuya, she was not married, nothing, still the din is that the child is a mamzer. Even if she's married, the din is the same. They learn this out from the din of taking your father's wife. Mad apostle. One will apostle savarma ishes av, just like your father's wife. The loy tasaba kedushin. Obviously, you can't marry her. This is talking about even a situation. Obviously, your father it's not your mother, but your father's wife. Kedushin is not typhus, and avlad mamzer. So I've called the loy tasaba kedushin avlad mamzer. So it's all totally on whether or not the kedushin is typhus. So we're dealing with a case of an eved. So with a Yisrael, so the Jewish woman, so that kedushin is not typhus. That's why the child's a mamzer. It's all totally on whether the kedushin is typhus. Umanda machshir savarma eshes av delididei lo tasbe kedushin. It's not a kedushin for you. However, lachrini tasbe kedushin. Let's say again she's now no longer married to your father. So the din is okay. You can't marry her, but someone else could. In that situation, the kedushin is not typhus at all. So it's very possible. So again, you have this machlokas based on Eshes Av, whether or not we'll say the din is that you're going to be possible by a penuya or by a Eshes Ish. Fine. We're talking about a situation where the Eved had Tashmish with a married woman. Says Rashi, Mishum Hachi Havalad Ein Lo Takana. It's not talking about a half and half. We're talking about a situation where the man actually had Tashmish with a married woman. Babas Yisrael, the Nimsa Sad Cheros Shel Eved Kishiboel, when it came to him being an Eved, having Tashmish with her, Mishtamish Be'eshes Ish. He was having tashmish with a married woman. Even if he was a complete eved, that the child is considered to be kosher. Any Yisrael who has tashmish with the Eshes Ish, the Avlad Mamzer. Rabbi and Amrli Rav Gaza Iklo Rav Yosi Bar Avin. So he went to this location. It was a situation where an Eved, a complete slave, had tashmish with a penuya, and he machsher the child. However, Eshes Ish, when it came to him having tashrus with a married woman, upasul. It wasn't him. Rabbi Yosef, Rabbi Zavida, different name. The Yasher, and actually he was Masher ben Beishasish. Even by Beishasish was Masher. He went to his location. Again, he martyred a complete Eved, even with an Beishasish. And at the bottom line, so the din is that if a non-Jew has tashmish with a Bas Israel, the child is going to be kosher. However, as we said, even if the child's kosher, still the child is pogum and therefore will not be able to marry a kohen. Rava Achshel Rab Mori Bar Rachel Umanayu Bepruse de Bavel. So we find that he was makel to Rab Mori Bar Rachel, as Rashi says, Mi Obi Kachavim Habal Yisrael Havas, that this was actually a person who came from a non-Jewish man who had relations with a Jewish woman, and he allowed Beprusui de Bavel Gaboyim Mimunim Al Yisrael, for him to be like a tax collector, to be involved in this high position. The Yafin the Gerba Alma Aser Parnes al Yisrael, even though normally we don't allow it because of the issue of Kerev Achicha, here he was lenient, and we'll see why in a sec. So he was lenient, and he allowed this person, even though he was the product of an Ovikachavim with a Yisraelis, to be able to be part of per se de Bavel. The Yavni Mar sometimes Melech, that in order to appoint a king, it has to be Kol Masimo Shiatamasim Mesim Al Yehu El Mikerav Achecha. It has to be someone from among you. So just like in U.S. law, it's necessary that you have to be an American citizen, you have to be born in the United States, so too you have to be born a Jew. And that's a requirement to be a king. Otherwise, a ger is not acceptable, because he's not Mikerav Achecha. But since his mother is Jewish, Mikerav Achecha Karinan Bey, he's not a ger, because his mother was Jewish. If his mother's Jewish, he's Jewish. And therefore, for that reason, he's considered to be Mekar B'chach, is allowed to be chosen as part of this position. Avdid Rav Chia Barami, the servants of Rav Chia Barami, Atbala, they did tefillah, Lahahi Ovedas Chachavim, U'Hashem Im Tasa. They did this conversion for this non-Jew for the sake of marriage. Rav Yosef, I'm able to machshir them, says Rashi, Yos Giores Gemura, to say that she's completely converted. Even though she may not have converted for the right reasons, as we'll see also later on, the tefillas nida salkadaita Hashem Geras Chavim Lu Tavlo Linidusa. So normally you would say this would not be a good tefillah when it comes to being taival l'shem nidus. So he said he was okay with it. Rabbi Yosef yechilnu lachshari ba ubirata, I can and the daughter ba Ravasi milo tavul nidusa. She was taival for the fact that she was a nida. So even though she wasn't taival, she converted but didn't do the tefillah, but since she eventually ended up going to the mikvah as a nida, this counts as gerus since it was done as a Jewish practice. So bibrata, so the daughter also, then once we call her kosher, a yid, so then her child's a kosher. And to support this, we have the following two stories. There was a person that was called a bar Arami Imyasa, the son of a non-Jewish woman. And again, the reason why is because she wasn't taival. So Ravasi Milo Tavlo Linidusa, wasn't she taival as a nida? And therefore again, that tefillah counts l'shem gerus. Ahuda Havikari Le Bar Aramah, and also was a person who was called the son of a non-Jewish father. So Rabbi Yeshua ben Levi Milo Tavlo Kario, when he became a Baal Kari, he also immersed himself in the mikvah, even though he didn't go to the mikvah for L'Shem Gerus, but it doesn't matter. The fact that he went because of a din of a Baal Kari, so only you would go to the mikvah because you're a Baal Kari, obviously because you accept upon yourself the Jewish practices, and therefore that will also count when it comes to you being considered a Yid. And therefore, again, halachic practical difference, if it's a woman, so then she's considered to be Jewish, and therefore her child will be Jewish as well. And also, as we said, even if the man was an Ovi Kachavim, the Vlad will be kosher. Okay, we're going to stop there. Let's see a couple of questions. Question 5. Ma svara lahachmir ba'akum ve'eved habal bas Yisrael the Vlad mamzer. Why would you think when it comes to an Ovi Kachavim, the child is a mamzer tfei mishar chavi lavin? So the answer is by Ovi Kachavim, there's no kedushin is not typhus. Kivan dolei tasu b'kedushin kichavi krisus damu. And what's the svar to be mekel by an akum that the child may be kosher more than chavi krisus? Kivan dolei tasu b'kedushin klal, because when it comes to chavi krisus, there's no kedushin at all. When it comes to again an Ovi Kachavim to a bas Yisrael, mashin kin chavi krisus yeshin kedushin al cherim. Since there's a kedushin on others, so for that reason, maybe there's a reason to actually be mekel. Okay, TA 28. Okay, we did this. Chatzi eved v'chatzi ben chayrin. So you have this person who is half and half. She kiddush isha, so he did kedushin. Ubal and had tashrish. O shabal eishas Yisrael, or this guy had bia with a Jewish woman. Himavad kosher b'kahal. Is the child mutter to come to the kahal? So he said like this: B'kadish isha. So if let's say he was mekadosh a woman, so how is that totally bedin akum the eved habal bas Yisrael? This is totally based on he's an akum because he's half, and or an eved that is bas Yisrael o vlad kosher o mamzer bal eishus Yisrael kolyamei mamzer. If he was boil an eishus Yisrael, everyone says this child will be a mamzer. Okay. TB 30. Next time. Adkan.